Sora14ish.com. Welcome to the Beat Hospital, where we analyze people's music and give them helpful advice on how to improve their mixing ability, their mastering ability, their sequencing ability, or anything that has to do with making music as far as production is concerned. With this, if you have a track that you're not so sure about, or you want us to analyze a few pieces of your work,
drop us an email at gamesandbeats@gmail.com.
Make things a little bit easier for you. We did get a request from Sora14ish, I believe that's how you say the username. So we're gonna take a look at his beats, and I'm gonna give him a few tips on how to improve his music. He's just started making beats not too long ago, so he's a beginner. So I'm gonna cut him some slack, and I'm gonna help you out. So let's get this done. All right, we are on Sora14ish's channel, and I'm about to go ahead and check out some of his music. I'm actually going to sort by most popular just to see what he has. I think I was checking his stuff out from earlier. Right from jump, the sample is not perfectly looped. There's this clipping, there's this odd cut off towards the end that leads to the loop. Your drums are way too loud. Now what I recommend, as far as when you mix, this is going to make your mixes sound so much better. If you're familiar with the maximizer, this is really going to help you. Now what I recommend for people to do when they mix is to mix below 6 decibels. It's -6 decibels actually. So when you're mixing, you want to achieve a mix that's hovering around -6 decibels. And that way, when you actually start to master your music, when you do your EQs or your compressors, and then you do your maximizer, this is what I recommend you do. After you achieve a mix at -6 decibels, EQ, color EQ, a little bit of compression just to bring the low noises up, and then a maximizer. This way, when you actually use your compressor, nothing clips. And also when you use a maximizer, since it's not clipping, it balances out at 0 decibels. Excuse me. But what I also recommend is just to do a lot of research as far as mixing and mastering. There's plenty of tutorials on YouTube, and that's how I learned how to mix and master my music. Now I've been doing it for 7 years, so I've learned a lot of different ways of mixing and mastering. Now I'm gonna tell you one thing: music is an art form. There are no rules, but there are certain guidelines and practices that you need to know in order to obtain a good, decent mix, because nobody's going to listen to a bad quality mix. Let's see, I'm going to do the Kirby Fountain Dream sample. What I recommend for these type of tracks that got this certain ambiance feel, like an orchestra or lots of pads and stuff, I mean, use a reverb. Reverb is your friend, okay? Now, don't use too much reverb. It's got to be tasteful, light application of reverb just to make it blend even more. Also, this intro is taking way too long. You want to get to the meat and bones to like a lot faster than a minute in, because this is carrying on for a while. Yeah, it's not even, you haven't, the track hasn't even begun yet. I don't know what kind of concept you were looking for this one. I'm not completely going against the idea of what you were trying to do, but I don't understand it. It's not even a snare. I don't know when the snare is actually coming in. It's already been 1 minute and 19 seconds. Now, if you was doing this for a specific type of song, I could be more understanding. And there's a lot going on right here with the open hi-hat. It just does not sit right. And I hear the clap. Okay, let me tell you one thing. Basic mixing 101. Drums are supposed to be louder than the snare. Hats are not supposed to be louder than the snare or drum. That's just basic 101 mixing. So next time, I recommend you tone the hats down, bring the clap or the snare just a little bit higher, and make your drums a little bit more balanced. The drums, since that's the most powerful thing in your instrument, that's the ones that's supposed to bring your track up to -6 decibels. I'm gonna give you an example on how exactly I mix my music. Now, this is what works for me. Now, it's not going to work for everybody else because everybody's views on mixing is totally different. Mine's is no exception. What I recommend having is a default template. Now, a default template is something that you can always rely on when you start a brand new track. Now, I use a various host of different things. Now, I use quite a different number of compressors and EQs. So this is one of my EQs. Now, I like this type of format. I'm not really a huge fan of parametric EQs. I like this a lot better. It's more analog. I like analog stuff. Now, EQs is something that I recommend you start with when you mix. So EQ, color EQ, what I say? EQ, color EQ, compression, maximizing. Light compression, very light compression. You don't want tracks to be sucked up. Now, this is something that I'm a fan of is various tape simulators or tape saturators. They just bring out that warmth in the track. I don't know. It's just something about what I hear that it's just like that secret sauce. Also, I'm a fan of the stereo imager. It just makes the stereo mix wider. It enhances the sound, at least in my view. And I always recommend people do a 1.3 or a 1.30 width. Anything higher is going to sound really, really weird. I'm gonna give you an example of what I mean. I'm going to adjust it little by little. Now I'm gonna bring it down so it's gonna make it more mono. Do you notice the music actually becoming more centered? Like panning is just out the question at this point. You can't even pan anything because nothing is going to the left ear or right ear. It's like just in your face center. Now if I bring it up more, you hear the difference when it's just getting wider and wider. And 1.3 for me was the sweet spot every single time. Also, I just have a default compressor. Actually, I think I use two different ones actually, but I have a default compressor. I just use it in very light application. It's not really that active. I only use it when I need it. I'm not a huge fan of compression unless you're using like a live drum set or a live synthesizer. That's when compression comes into play. Like, okay, for example, compression for vocals. That it just keeps the peaks or you from hitting that peak down, and it also enhances your voice by making it louder. Like right now, I'm using a hardware compressor as I'm recording this video. It's preventing me from going over the top, and also it's enhancing my low voices, my very low, my low ranges, my the words that are not so clearly heard is being brought out at its maximum. So if I was to talk maybe a little bit lower or just whisper, you see, like, no, even though when you whisper, of course you're not gonna be able to hear as clear, but when I whisper with the compressor, you can hear everything that I'm saying. You feel me? Also, a limiter. A limiter is also your maximizer. So let me give you an example of what happens when I bring the threshold down. It's actually going to make the track louder. So as I bring it down, You hear it getting louder and louder and louder and louder. Now this comes in handy once you're mixing at -6 decibels, because you'll be able to hit that sweet spot of 0 decibels, which is what you're trying to achieve. Now remember, I said mix at -6 decibels. That way everything is blended well. And don't go crazy with the drums, because loud drums will destroy your track, because you were achieving a lot of distortion as you put out your product. That's not appealing to people that want to listen to your music, and it also turns away from potential buyers, man. So you're losing money. That's all I got for you. I hope this helped out. Now, I hope you take my advice into consideration for your music. Hopefully it helps you out. And if you want any more hints, just let me know. And I'll keep addressing some helpful hints in the comment section. Now, if you liked the video, go ahead, like, share, and subscribe to Games and Beats. Check out our forums at gamesandbeats.com.
Also, make sure to check out our second channel, Nerds with Passports, as well as our website, nerdswithpassports.com.
Thanks for checking in to Beat Hospital. Now it's time for you to check out.